What would you do if you had constant back pain that was making it hard for you to do the things that you loved? And then all of a sudden, you ended up with hip pain that was making it hard for you to just sit down and do your job. Today, I'm interviewing Peter, an attorney who spent decades at his desk before back and hip pain really started to ruin his life. Peter was told that based on the severity of the damage in his hips and spine, he needed to just wait until things got so bad that he would need to have his hip replaced or hip resurfaced. He didn't like those options, and that's how I met Peter. And over the past few years, Peter has made gradual but fantastic gains in his function, range of motion, and has made great decreases in his own pain levels. We're really fortunate to have Peter sit down and share his insights and the things he's learned over the course of the last few years. And I hope that if you've got hip pain or back pain, you'll find this interview really helpful. That is inspirational, dude. Peter, welcome, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. I'm so excited to get through all of this. So can you tell us about how your hip pain journey all started, the history, the diagnoses, the treatments that you were offered?
Sure. So, Matt, I'm in my 50s now, as you know. I started to have hip pain that was noticeable probably in my early 30s. I was very active during my free time, running, tennis, and doing them at a pretty high level, but not really doing much else. So I started to have what I thought was just sort of, ordinary muscle pain from, being mostly sedentary with an office job or desk job, and then going out and, playing a 2-hour tennis match or going for a 3-mile or 5-mile run with hills. So I just sort of wrote it off, and I didn't do anything else in my body other than, the actual exercise, running, tennis, and I always consider myself to be pretty fit, and I probably was in a cardiovascular way, but the pain started to worsen as I got into my early 40s. So, I had the pain, to answer your question, I had the pain probably, for almost 5 to 7 years, 10 years, and then it got progressively worse.
So then you had both these things going on for several years, and then you said mid-40s. Is that when you went to the doctor to try to get some answers? Yeah.
Yeah, I started to see orthopedists, back specialists for my back. I had imaging, herniated disc diagnoses, back degenerative changes in my back, just a litany of things, sort of called pathology for my back, lower back. And, then I saw my family doctor about my hips, and then I went to see a specialist about my hips, and I had more imaging for my hips and various diagnoses, including FAI, cam impingement, labral tears, arthritis, degenerative changes. I mean, just sort of a laundry list of things. Well, I could sort of put them all into sort of the bucket of degenerative changes. And that's where, and then, of course, there was a discussion with the various doctors about options, injections, do steroid injections, which I did do for my hip twice, and both hips didn't know. I saw no noticeable change from doing that. And I knew it was sort of a Band-Aid option, but I didn't really know what else there was for me. I tried PT at the same time. I found some of it to be helpful, but it wasn't something that I really could engage in with any continuity. I just didn't feel like there was a sort of a long-term strategy or a plan. And, I was frustrated and not sure what to do at that time before I found you, actually.
How did you end up stumbling on my videos and just finding me? What was that process?
The way that most people find information these days, went onto the internet. Almost immediately found some of your content, some of your videos, educational content, and also your FAI Fix program. And I watched your videos. I listened to them carefully. I read your materials. I looked at the various medical journal articles that you provide through your site, and I just, I sensed that I was missing information. I didn't have information that could be helpful to me, and that there might be another way to improve my circumstances.
So, what about what you read or encountered there resonated with you, and why did you even have this belief that there was some other option?
What resonated with me was that I realized how little I knew about my hips and hip function and
Mm.
what my hips are capable of doing sort of in a, sort of a natural form, sort of, I'll call it out of the box, like from when we're born to, to where we are in our lives now. I just had forgotten or never really appreciated because it just sort of happened for me when I was younger. Like I didn't think about it.
Right.
I could do a sport, I could run, I could wrestle, I do whatever. And it was sort of on demand and it was there. I didn't have any problems. But I lost that somehow. Never really knew what it was because it just happened for me. So I lost it and I needed to learn about what it was that I lost. So
Mm.
that, like to do a deep squat in good form, to internally and externally rotate my hips, to do a frog stretch, to do, flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, to be able to move it in all these different ranges of motion. Because for so long, my range of motion had been, sitting in a modern chair.
To be clear, your process of um, getting to where you are today hasn't been linear, right? Like the discussions you and I had, we had a lot of discussions about your own fears, doubts about what your body could do, doubts about, your future with your body. Can you speak about that process and where you struggled, the roadblocks you ran into, and how you kind of really just had it all click for yourself?
Everybody wants quick results, right? Sort of like you want
Right.
to eliminate the pain and go back to doing whatever activity right away. And that didn't happen for me. And that was hard. It's taken years and I'm still seeing improvement. I was able to do things just this past 3, 6 months that I couldn't do 1 year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And in fact, some stuff that I couldn't do since I was um, in my high school. I don't expect to become sort of a high school version of myself again, but it's just said to me that it takes time.
What is the experience like when you've been sedentary for so long and you start doing these new motions? What was the actual internal feelings and what were your emotional responses to those sensations, and how did those change over time?
So as I trained myself to become more functional, there was also a correlating reduction in pain as I was doing those activities. For example, in 2017, I hadn't skied since like 2012, 2013. I went out one day, my daughter was in college. I went skiing, downhill skiing, and my hips were so uncomfortable. I did, I don't know, 6 or 7 runs, pretty easy downhill skiing. And I was just sort of, um, I was dejected after doing that because it, it took it was less enjoyable because of the discomfort I was having. I was able to
Right.
do it, but it was discomfort. I was in discomfort. This year, fast forward, I skied more than I have, probably than I can remember actually. Um, and I still had some discomfort as I did it each time, but it was much less than the discomfort I had a few years ago. And I was skiing at a much higher level uh,
Nice.
for longer periods of time. And I didn't have the pain didn't get increasingly worse the more I did it or the longer I did it. It was just sort of it was low level and it was the joy and benefits I got out of the skiing far outweighed whatever, minor discomfort or symptoms I had.
A lot of people get in this mindset of like, well, if I play tennis and it hurts, maybe I just need to play more tennis. And maybe if I just keep forcing it, it'll feel better. When the reality is, for your skiing as an example, you had to do things that would improve overall function and prepare your body better for skiing. So then your function for skiing has gone up and the discomfort went down. You did the homework, you did the fundamental work you had to do in order to actually enjoy your sport.
I can lift and move things today that in a safe, functional way that I couldn't do when I didn't have back pain. And not concerned about hurting my back. It gets a little stiff once in a while, like any middle-aged man's back might, but I can pick up 30, 40, 50-pound bag of dog food. I can throw a 40-pound bag of mulch over my head. I mean, I can move stuff and not be fearful. And I'm getting it stronger.
So before we close, is there anything else you'd like to add? You have the opportunity to tell anybody who's got hip pain or back pain, is there one thing that you would say to help them in their journey?
But I would say, do your homework, educate yourself, learn about your anatomy, learn how your body should function, learn about what might be preventing your body from functioning in the way that it should. For example, prolonged excessive sitting or even prolonged excessive standing. Any one position for too long a period of time is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Body wasn't meant to be in a cast. Find a plan, follow a plan.
Bring the attention and the mindfulness to it to treat the body well. All right, well, Peter, this has been super helpful. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit and chat about all of this.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for listening to this interview and listening to what Peter has to say. If you know somebody else struggling with hip pain or back pain, or you're in a support group where people talk about these things, please feel free to share this video with them. It could be a huge help in shifting people's mindsets and helping them get on the path out of chronic pain. If you liked this content, please click a like button, subscribe, and as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks.
Life shouldn't.